Hi class, we are going to learn about adverb clauses today. Lesson 5, Unit 8, and let's get right to it. Please open up your books to page 408. So right now I'm looking at number 1 on page 408. So we've been learning about subordinate clauses that were used as adjectives. Now we're going to learn about subordinate clauses used as adverbs. Subordinate clauses, remember, are clauses, a group of words that cannot stand alone in a sentence all by itself, and typically it begins with a subordinate conjunction. And we're going to talk about common subordinating conjunctions for adverb clauses today. So you see that example there, we visited New York after we had seen Washington. In both cities, we walked until our feet gave out. So remember that adverbs, when they're just words, answer questions how, when, where, and to what extent. So this clause right here, after we had seen Washington, we visited New York. Visited when? After we had seen Washington. So this would serve as an adverb clause because it answers the question when about the verb. And remember that the words that are adverbs, just like adverb clauses, modify not nouns, that's adjectives, but they modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. Okay, and that's what you're going to find adverb clauses also do. Going to the next section, like an adverb clause modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. You should check your camera before you take the picture. Okay, and modifies the verb should check. Okay, should check when? Before you take the picture. New York was still busy while other cities slept. Modifies busy. I walked faster in New York than I normally do. Modifies the adverb faster. Okay. Notice before, while, and then are subordinate conjunctions, and you'll also find them in the list here, the chart on the bottom of page 408. So feel free to use your book while you're doing your assignment, because it has a nice list. It gives you something to look for as you're doing the assignment, because maybe it's easier for you to identify subordinate conjunctions for you to find the entire clause. Number 2, an adverb clause is introduced by a subordinating conjunction, as I just mentioned. All right, and it relates the adverb clause to an independent clause. So when our visit ended, we returned home. We will travel wherever you want to go next. So although they can't stand alone as their own individual sentences, they're not independent clauses, they can relate to an adverb, an independent clause, or the conjunctions can anyway. So like when and wherever, it basically, the word when relates our visit ended to the independent clause we returned home. The subordinated conjunction wherever in this case takes the rest of the words you want to go next and relates it to we will travel. Okay, so remember, adverb clauses are subordinate clauses. They cannot stand alone. These are all a list of subordinated conjunctions. Use page 408 to help you with that because you're not expected to have them all memorized. Looking ahead to the next page there. This is important. Top of page 409. It says different subordinating conjunctions express different relationships. So remember we mentioned that adverbs answer when, where, how, but then also there's 2 more categories in regards to adverb clauses that we want to consider here. Why and comparison. Okay, so basically any adverb clause will fit into one of these categories. Okay, it'll either answer the question when, where, how, why, and then also give a comparison. And typically that comparison subordinate conjunction is then. So keep that in mind. They'll fit into one of those 5 categories. Number 4, when you use a subordinated conjunction, think about the meaning that you intend. Choose the conjunction that best expresses that meaning. Using a different conjunction can change the meaning of a sentence. Notice that a comma is used after an adverb clause that begins a sentence. So any subordinate clause that begins a sentence, you will need a comma after it. And you know that because it's a complex sentence then. So then whenever, before, after, notice that those are the 3 different subordinate conjunctions and how it changes the meaning of the sentence, just depending on what meaning you're trying to get across. All right. But, the rest of the words are the same. So it just goes to show you that the subordinate conjunction is very important. All right, so what I'm going to have you do is I would like you on page 409, numbers 1 to 10. Why don't you work through numbers 1 to 10? Keep in mind the directions here is what is the adverb clause in each of the following sentence. So come up with the adverb clause. Notice, remember, it's going to begin with a subordinate conjunction on page 408. There's that list on page 408. It says what word or words does each clause modify? And then where should the commas be used? Why don't we go through numbers 1 and 2 first together, and then I'll have you do numbers 3 to 10 on your own. How's that? So number 1 says, from the top of the Sears Tower, I can see for miles when the day is clear. Okay, so do we have our conjunction found? How about when? Okay, so when the day is clear is going to be our adverb clause in this case. All right, and then what's the adverb clause modify? It's either got to modify a verb, an adverb, or an adjective. Okay, and in this case it modifies can see. Okay, when the day is clear, can see. Number 2, notice the word when there again. When I move around the deck. Okay. What does it modify? Modifies, again, see. Okay. Notice that it's a subordinate clause, so it begins the sentence, so you need a comma right there. Don't forget that. All right, so go ahead and do 3 to 10. See if you can identify the clause first, and then the word that it modifies. So I'm going to have you pause the video right now. Okay, I'm going to assume you paused it and then did numbers 3 to 10 already. And so let's go through the answers. So number 3, you should have had identified after as a subordinate conjunction, after the sun goes down, and it modifies spectacular. Number 4, you should have received the answer before I go there again, and it modifies I'll buy. Okay, it actually modifies by, but notice that I will, it's I will, so really it's will buy is the verb phrase, so that's really what it's modifying. That's a toughie. Number 5, you should have come up with the subordinate conjunction while. While the sun is setting is going to be the adverb clause, and it modifies take. So remember, if you have down a noun as one of the words it modifies, remember, an adverb clause cannot modify a noun. That's an adjective clause. An adverb clause can only modify, you're looking for a verb, an adverb, or an adjective. Number 6, because Chicago is near my, because there is always plenty to do, and it describes lively. Number 7, because Chicago is near my home, and that modifies visited. Number 8, even, this is a big one. Okay, so even though, all right, so if you go here, notice even though is one of the conjunctions. So even though is where you should start, and then it goes the rest of the way. Even though I have visited many other cities many times. Because, remember, you have a string of prepositional phrases in here. You just keep going with it. And so then what is it describing? The word love. As soon as I return to Chicago, is the phrase for 9, and then it describes want. Or modifies want. Number 10, until I see the river running through the city. So again, you have a string of prepositional phrases, so you just keep on going. It modifies the word leave. Okay, so moving on, let's supply an appropriate subordinate conjunction. I'm on page 410 now, from the chart on page 408. Okay, so what'd you have for 11? Probably that would be the best choice. Go ahead and do 12 to 16 on your own. Pause the video, and then I'll come back and give you some possible answers. All right, I'm assuming that you paused it and we're back. So blank, I visit Arizona. I see its desert scenery. How many of you had whenever? Yeah, that might work. And so really, it's just whatever makes sense here, right? 13, you could have had wherever. You could have had whenever. You could have before, right? There's a bunch of different answers for these. All right, let's actually, why don't we move on to 17 to 22, okay? So page 410 on the bottom there. It says write each sentence. See that? Adding commas where they are needed. Underline each adverb clause once, each subordinate conjunction twice. Okay, so this one, it looks like you don't have to say what it modifies, the word it modifies, but you just got to identify the clause and identify the subordinating conjunction. So pause the video, just kind of go through 17 to 22. It might be good to do it on a piece of paper, but you could probably maybe do it up here as well. But just go through each example. I just want to make sure you're feeling comfortable before you do the worksheet assignment. Okay, I'm assuming you're back from pausing the video now. Let's look at number 17 together. All right, so remember you're in subordinate conjunction mode, right? You're trying to find the subordinate conjunction, and you identify when, hopefully, in 17, when the weather turns cold. That is the phrase. All right, you don't have to say what it modifies in this section, but when is going to be the subordinate conjunction. So whatever word begins the adverb clause is the subordinate conjunction. How about 18? Did you see whenever? Whenever you go there. Okay, whenever the conjunction. 19, did you happen to find although? All right, so although winters are very cold, that is the clause, adverb clause, and then although is the conjunction. Keep in mind for that one, don't forget to put a comma after after cold, because it's a subordinate clause, adverb clause that begins a sentence. Okay, number 20. Hopefully you found the word while. While the summer shines, while would be the subordinate conjunction. Do you need a comma there? No, because the independent clause is in the beginning, the subordinate clause is at the end. What kind of sentence is that again? If you said complex sentence, you are correct. Number 21, hopefully you found the word than okay. Then they are is the adverb clause, than is the conjunction. And then 22, hopefully wherever smacked you in the face there, because it starts at the beginning, wherever you go along Maine's rocky coast is your adverb clause. Okay, do you need a comma after it? You bet, because a subordinate clause is beginning this complex sentence followed by an independent clause. All right, so hopefully you're feeling somewhat comfortable enough to tackle this. Keep in mind that page 408 is going to be your friend, because it has that list of subordinating conjunctions. Okay, and then your assignment. Let's see if I can switch back and forth here. There we go. Your assignment is going to be this. Okay, so you got your adverb clause there. Oop, hold on. Okay, and you got a backside as well. Okay, notice the spirit stick in the background. You see it up there? All right, that's right. 7 and 8 pride. You betcha. All right, so hopefully you do well on this assignment, and if you have any questions, let me know via email. Okay, and if you ever want to do a Google Meet or whatever, I'm game for that. Just don't say, hey, I want a Google Meet now. Okay, because I might not be able to do that, but I will try to accommodate if that's something that you need help, doing or whatever. Okay, so good luck on that, and we got one more lesson to go here in this unit before we start reviewing. Test is coming up, and I'll talk about the test in tomorrow's lesson. Or actually, I don't think you have a lesson tomorrow. Let me double check this here. Yeah, I gave you the day off tomorrow for language arts for English. So Thursday is when we'll talk about noun clauses. Hold on. And there it is. Okay, so until then,